Hey, what's up? This is Andy Samberg.
Hey, this is Tom Papa.
Hi, this is Brian Stack from Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Hey, it's James Kaiserly.
This is Vic Sahat. Welcome to
ShowbizMonkeys.com. No consequence when you playing with the fire. Move to the left, man.
Okay, so we're here with Shane Mauss.
Hello.
Been a big fan of your comedy for a few years, so it's great to talk to you.
Thank you.
I guess.
Why am I saying thank you to the audience that isn't saying?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Thanking you.
You can thank them for watching.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for thinking I'm funny, and thank you guys as well if you think that I'm funny so far. A little rocky.
You grew up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Now, Wisconsin's known now for being a pretty good home of improv, but you don't hear a lot of like stand-ups coming out of that part of the country. Like,
well, I didn't start comedy in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
I moved to Boston in 2003 and started out there. I had no idea what I was doing at all, and like Chicago has a great improv scene, but I had no idea how to start stand-up, and I was just like, oh, I think you go to New York or L.A., and then I had a friend that was moving to Boston, and I was like, well, close enough, I'll just tag along with him, and it's easier than, going out on your own and everything. And so I moved out to Boston, and I just started, I had no idea what I was doing, so I just started, I went through the phone book. People still used phone books back then, and I, called up comedy clubs, and was like, hey, I want to be a comedian. And people, it's not really how you get started. You got to find open mics and stuff. But I found a couple clubs that were helpful enough to be like, well, come out and check out a few shows, and you could talk to me and, sort it out. And I ended up taking a stand-up class. Eventually I was directed toward a guy who's Rich Gustis, who's a good friend of mine now, and I took a stand-up class in Boston. And that's how I got started, and just doing open mics. So
you said you moved to do comedy, so you had an interest in it growing up, though?
Yeah. Since I was 8 years old, I had a friend that suggested that I should be a stand-up, and I was just like, yeah, that's a good idea. I was 8 years old, and you're still dumb enough to just believe you can do things, because life hasn't beaten the crap out of you yet, and you haven't thought about things in any practical kind of a way, and so, which is fortunate, because I think if I would have got the idea later on in life, I don't think I ever would have tried. And the older I got, the less likely it seemed too. But I just it got planted in my head, and I was just in my mind. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. I just always thought that from that moment forward.
So what kind of comedy were you listening to at 8 years old?
Not much. I didn't even see stand-up comedy until I didn't even know what it was when my friend told me. I was like, what's that? And he's just like, Chappelle. Yes, Chappelle. This guy's saying, to say Dave Chappelle, who I didn't know of when I was 8 years old, because I don't think he had a career then. But Dave Chappelle. So I'm very hungover from last night. So my brain is just not firing. Not that it is normally particularly quick. Here we go. So I didn't even know. Someone told me what stand-up comedy. My friend was like, "Oh yeah, it's just a person that stands on stage and makes people laugh." I was just like, "Oh yeah, I can do that. I can make people laugh." And so I didn't start watching stand-up until I was 14, something like that. And I started just watching on Comedy Central and seeing all the stand-up on there. Maybe 12 years old, and so I just got into the acts I saw on there, but I was never a huge fan of anyone in particular. I just watched as much as I could. I just thought everything was funny. I just liked it all, and it wasn't until I was much later in life that I developed a taste for certain comics in particular.
Yeah.
It was just oh, I have to watch as much of this as I can so I can learn how to do stand-up.
Over the last few years, you've done quite a few television appearances. Comedy Central, of course. You've done Conan several times. You're doing Conan coming up in about a month.
Yeah.
So.
It's been nice.
I've always been curious, when you're doing something like that compared to doing your own show at a club or that kind of thing, do you have to work out your act with producers of the show? Do you have to plan it all out and everything?
Yeah, every show is different. When I did Kimmel, they were pretty loose. Like, they just wanted me on and didn't even see, like, the set ahead of time or whatever, and I just emailed them the jokes. So they still have to run stuff by standards and practice people and make sure that that's okay. As far as censorship and everything, which I hate. But yeah, it's like this Conan was like months of going through stuff. It would probably sent him like a half-hour material. Some of it was too edgy or too whatever, wasn't going to work on the show. There's about 15 minutes of it that we figured out that could work on the show, that were approved by the standards people. So then I had to whittle that down to like 5 minutes, and we kept going back and forth, and I kept making tapes and sending them more stuff to see, and then finally, we just got it to a place that we were comfortable with, and so yeah, it's that's the hardest part, is putting those little 5-minute sets together, because it's every word means so much, and because you only have 5 minutes, so you have to make everything so concise and all that, and every show has like a different kind of a feel to it and everything, and so Conan's maybe a little weirder and edgier or whatever, and if you want to be on Letterman, you got to be like the most squeaky clean, like no drinking or drug humor, nothing that could be construed as mean or dark or like anything like that. And that's if you're a bigger act, it's different. But so every show just has like different things that they're looking for. Yeah. So it's a long process trying to get on that stuff. But the Conan people have been good to me. You mentioned earlier that you pretty much find everything funny. What do you, for people that haven't seen your act, what kind of stuff do you try to draw from when coming up with jokes and when coming up with material? Yeah. Well, now that I think about it, first off, I don't. I think I was wrong in saying that. I don't think. Well, I figured you were exaggerating a bit. I figured you were exaggerating a bit. I like watching stand-up a lot. I love it, even when I think it's bad. I love watching it. It doesn't necessarily mean that I think it's funny. Right. Yeah. Especially when I see so much of it all the time. I mean, I don't even think I'm funny half the time. And I'm full of myself. How do I think of my material? I carry a notepad around with me everywhere I go, and that's a passport, not a notepad. My notepad's gone and was replaced by a passport. Where's my notepad? You don't want to write down weird, drug jokes on your passport. How did that happen? I had a wild night last night. The standard notepad for the old show. It's my passport. Passports are a joke. Anyway, I usually put them in my phone now, which is probably why I don't. So anyway, I write down little jokes that I have, or little funny things that make me laugh that I think of, or I make someone else laugh. I make a note of it. I go, oh, I made someone laugh, and I jot it down, and then later on, I just spend hours and hours in front of the computer just going through all those little notes that I've made, trying to write jokes about passports or whatnot, and, spend a lot of time on Wikipedia, and I learn a lot of stuff about a lot of things that no one really needs to know about, like time travel and stuff, If I want to write a time travel joke, which I love time travel jokes, the whole concept I think is hilarious, so I just learned everything I could about time travel and got into Stephen Hawking and stuff like that. So I just try to teach myself stuff whenever I have joke ideas or things that I'm interested in, try to go from there. One last thing, I noticed you're playing some shows coming up in Wisconsin, including your hometown. Yeah. Do you like touring, your home state, your hometown, and doing shows? And I get nervous when I play my hometown because it's a lot of most people from my high school have moved out of my hometown, and so the people that come it's a lot of my parents' friends and everything, and so and a lot of my stuff is just over the top, filthy or dark or whatever. I do things in kind of an innocent sort of a way. I don't try to be offensive or anything, but and I don't even think about a lot of my material as being offensive until I'm performing in front of my parents' friends. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can talk about dry vaginas for 8 minutes. And so it's a little nerve-wracking. That, and I try to have new material every time I'm back. So okay. that's also nerve-wracking because I'm usually doing tons and tons of new stuff. I love it. That's my favorite thing on earth. Once you have a new bit and it works, then it's no better feeling than that. But it fails most of the time. It's just a lot of failure.
ShowbizMonkeys.com